Welcome to the Serial Designer, and this is with the place where we make architectural, interior, and other design concepts as simple as possible for you. So let's get started. Today, I'm here to discuss 5 architectural concepts which you can use at your academic level. So, a lot of students have this question that, in offices and, when you're a junior architect or you're working or a junior designer for that matter, there is a different way in which designs are approached. There's a different way in which life projects are approached. There's a team, there are brainstorming sessions happening, and there's a senior who is always guiding you. But at your academic level, you do not have these benefits. So at an academic level, how to come up with concepts? See, at an academic level, your exposure is not that high. I know, even I was a student once, and there was nobody to help me, but well, you're lucky because here I am. So here I'm going to discuss 5 ways in which you can be very, very safe while selecting an architectural concept for your project. 5 ways in which you can make your architectural concepts simpler and break it down into simpler units. Also, as I've already mentioned, it's always better to play safe when you come up with the concept. You should have a broader concept. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and never miss another update from us. Also, fill the comment section, guys. Come on, I need your recommendations. We have to grow together. The first concept that I'm going to discuss is it's all about the site. So the concept it's called it's all about the site, and as the name suggests, your site analysis has to be as strong as possible. I have already done a video on how to do a successful site analysis, and a site tells you a lot more about the space and about the design than anything else. This is what I strongly believe as a designer, that your site will give you hints and cues as to what you need to do with that particular site. So site responsiveness is one concept which we are going to discuss today. Understanding how the site is responding. Say for example, the site is a sloped site. The site topography is such that it suggests you to give out something which is vernacular in nature. Is there an existing tree on site? Is there an existing ecosystem which you need to conserve on site? Say for example, you are doing a resort, and there's an existing tree, there's an existing ecosystem, and there are specific birds to that site. So you need to understand how you can safeguard this, as well as making it into an aesthetic design that you are going to do eventually. Are there any good scenic views on site? So how the site is responding, what are the views and vistas and avenues which you want to create with the existing natural elements which are existing on site. That is, say for example, there's a river, say for example, there's a huge banyan tree. How are you going to create your spaces so that you are not going to hamper the existing natural elements and points on site? Say for example, you don't want to level the slope as soon as you see a site. You want to make sure that you build something, or an amphitheater, or something which respects that slope. Open spaces are something which is always welcome in an architectural concept. Understand, the more openness your design shows, you don't necessarily need to create a lot of built spaces. You can also work on your landscape, you can work on open spaces, you can work on the creation of open spaces, you can work on the functionality of open spaces. So respecting that open space which is there on. There is also a book on site responsiveness, and the link is attached to the description, and you can also see it on the screen. So this book is explaining very in detail as to how to do a site responsive study. Say for example, there are a few nodes, boundaries, and a few representation techniques where you can study the site to its fullest. The climate of the site, the environment of the site is as crucial as it gets. How are you going to orient the site towards? Where is going to be the north in the side? From which side are the winds expected? From which side are the views expected? All these things are very important, and you can create an entire concept just based on how the site is responding to your design. You can also study the cultural and the social expectation of that site. Say for example, your site is in Varanasi and it's in Barsana. There are some beautiful ghats, or there are some beautiful step wells which are located on site. How are you going to derive your concept based on that vernacular region? So you can always read about the cultural and the regional area of that particular site and make your design accordingly, make your concepts accordingly. say the community is all about making murals, artworks, or they are into pottery. So the entire concept of your design could be based on their particular vernacular profession and the particular cultural and social background of those people who are existing on site. A very good example is, say, Kumbharwada. You could design an entire visitor center for them based on the idea of pottery. So what is going to help you here is making a basic block model of the site, noting down its contours, noting down how the slope is reacting, noting down where the existing trees are, noting down what is the social, cultural, historical background of that particular area. Making a small block model will always help you to do massing on site. It's basically making your build spaces, making a block model, and also placing them on the site. So this site and built and unbuilt relationship, the understanding when you do it practically will help you gain a lot of insights. And this could exactly be your concept. It's just a way of representation. Site responsive study. This is what I would like to name this concept. That a good site responsive study will help you go towards a concept, and it is a very, very workable concept. So the second architectural concept which you can work on is basically form and volume. Some students are not very good at picking up, grasping concepts of site understanding, but they are very good with their forms, they are very good with their shapes. Basic design is one subject or any kind of elective which you have. Say, for example, you have origami, you have kirigami, and a lot of colleges also have model making in their courses. So these are the subjects which will give you external inspiration which you can apply as your design concept. So being a design student, you need to get inspired from different subjects as well. It's not like in your design subject you will get your concept right there. You have to link your ideas to other subjects as well. So say, for example, in basic design you have recently created very beautiful 3D of arches or something, and you worked on arches, and arches are something which you are motivated by. So select a concept which is based on something as simple as an arch. Say, for example, you want to go even simpler. Prism is your concept. So prism also can be taken ahead as a concept. Pyramid can be taken ahead as a concept. So dealing with forms in general. So there are a lot of architects who are definitely form-based architects, and the architect which I have right now in my mind is Frank Gehry. He is the godfather when it comes to dealing with form in architecture. So you can go check his work out, how he comes up with concepts. You can literally mimic the way he works. One more example which is on top of my head is the Legoland by BIG Group, and it is a beautiful example as to what a simple form can be elaborated 100x times and made into a beautiful structure. So it could be possible that even before reading the client brief, even before going on site, you already have a form in mind which you would want to work with. It is definitely possible that you are inspired by some of the forms which are organically available to you by your other subjects as well. And trust me, there are a lot of architects who are doing this. The third way in which you can create a very successful architectural concept is literally making the idea into your design. So it is a very literal translation of a thought into design. It's conveying a message, conveying a thought exactly through design. So the idea behind the lotus temple was to literally depict a lotus through architecture. So that's how it is. The basic idea of Sydney Opera House was making it into a form of a flower. So the idea and the design are literally very easy to relate. So this is where metaphoric architecture comes into place. The Pompidou Center. So even this is a very good example of this kind of architecture, where the simple idea was to just make the architecture extremely raw and respect your structural elements and show everything as a wireframe. So something as simple, but it gives a very successful design. Basically, you are combining ideas from outside of architecture and you are literally translating it to design. So the idea behind the building is much more important than the way it looks and the way it functions. So the entire storytelling, the entire thought process happens through the design only. The fourth idea which you can work out is the idea of biomimicry, and it's my personal favorite because biomimicry is something which always works in the design, and it is the demand of this decade. Sustainability is something which is very attractive. A lot of designers, clients are inspired by the idea of sustainability. So biomimicry is basically getting inspired from nature, small things from nature, say the scales of fishes, say the veins of a leaf, or you could literally take up a concept as simple as a bird's nest. So something which is very, very naturally available, and you can see with your own eyes, something which is inspired from flora and fauna, something which is inspired from the shape of a tree. So this is something biomimicry picks up really well. You can see a lot of examples on the internet as to how biomimicry is literally translated into product design, into furniture, into architecture, into interior design. A lot of designers are using this concept. So it is literally the concept which is trending, as you call it. So I would say this is mere a very scientific approach to sustainable design. I have a good example on my head, which is the Beijing Stadium in China, and it is literally inspired from a bird's nest. Another very, very beautiful example by a beautiful architect, and it's again my favorite architect. It's the Milwaukee Art Museum. They have depicted it beautifully. So it is literally inspired from the wings of an eagle. So something which is very, very naturally there around you. It's just that you need to open your eyes and see the natural elements around you. So someone who is extremely sensitive to sustainability, extremely sensitive to landscape, natural elements, organic elements, this is your go-to. Another example is the gherkin in London, and it is inspired by literally the system. When you cut a flower in section, it is literally inspired by its stems. So the system which is there, the cell system which is there within that bud, is something what this building is. So literally copying the forms from nature, systems, and strategies which nature has, and you apply it to your architecture. Fifth, last but not the least, idea of concept is sensory perception concept. This concept revolves all around the human, how the humans are going to emotionally attach to your spaces, how the human is going to play an important role in your design. What is that one quality which you are giving to your human, and how is he going to relate to the spaces that you're creating. So you can experiment with a lot of materials, different patterns, because this is something how we respond to. You can have a lot of color and light play going on. You can have a lot of shade and shadow play going on, because this is something how humans are going to perceive visually. So being in that space, understanding how that space works, and making human as the hero of your design. So say for example, biophilia is a concept which you can use here. And biophilia is basically use of a lot of planters. It's very, very similar to biomimicry, but here we are using a lot of planters, to give that kind of a calmness to the space, using of natural, organic, a very natural earthy color palette, so that a human feels connected to nature, the human feels connected to the earth. So this is the thought that you are putting on to that user. The user is always comfortable when he's in its own surrounding. So making the design as close to the human as possible. So biophilia is definitely a concept which you can use. For this, you will need to probably learn a little bit of color theory, that how colors are making or breaking the space, how colors are perceived by humans, and what emotion is triggered when seeing that particular color. What emotions are triggered when seeing some kind of materials, textures, patterns. So experimenting with this, understanding, researching about that human along with its surroundings will give you your concept. So this is exactly what your concept is. Does it have a very calming effect? Does it have a trigger effect? Are you designing for the blind? Are you designing for the handicapped? How do they perceive, which is different from an ordinary user? So this is the idea which you can bring forward and understand at its root level. So reading a lot of articles. So this topic, this concept is a little tricky, but it is a concept which will be accepted. So yes, here are 5 ways in which you can create an architectural concept for you, just to be safe. So this is specially for your academic level. As I've already mentioned, in offices there is a lot of brainstorming and a lot of strategies, goals, because it's a life project. There is a lot at stake. But at your academic level, you can be a little more ambitious, you can be a little more out of hand, you can design and go wild. So this is the time when you can experiment a lot, because there is a lot less at stake. So yes, here are 5 ways in which you can create a beautiful architectural concept for your design topic.